All right, let's just dive right in because today we are looking at a massive systemic misunderstanding that is literally costing responsible people every single month. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're going to unpack the hidden and honestly fascinating mechanics behind your credit score. I want to start with a story about a guy named Ryan. Now, Ryan did everything perfectly. He had a credit card with a $5,000 limit, and one month he charged exactly $1,847 on it. Bought a new laptop for work, a flight home for the holidays, standard stuff. When the bill arrived, he paid the full balance. Zero interest, zero late fees, textbook responsible behavior, right? But then, 3 days later, he checks his credit report, and he sees this, a 25-point drop. I mean, what? He didn't miss a payment, he didn't open a new account, he didn't do a single thing wrong, but the algorithm punished him anyway. And here's the crazy part. This exact scenario happens to thousands of responsible people every single month, and almost none of them ever figure out why. They usually just think it's their spending, or I don't know, maybe identity theft or a weird bank error. So it begs the question, right? He paid in full and on time. Why on earth did his score drop? Well, the answer is not his spending, and it's actually not his debt either. The real reason Ryan lost 25 points is because of a secret date on the calendar, a date that his bank deliberately does not highlight in their app. So today, we are going to reveal exactly when the banking system takes its snapshot of your finances and how simply shifting your payment by just 48 hours can absolutely transform your credit score. Let's start by looking at what we call the due date lied. To figure out how to fix this, we first need to debunk the biggest myth in personal finance. Literally, from the moment you get your very first credit card, you are trained to circle the due date. And yeah, paying by the due date absolutely protects your wallet. It's basically a deal between you and the bank to avoid interest and late fees. But that is its only purpose. It's just a billing agreement. Now contrast that with the statement closing date. This right here is the hidden date that actually determines your credit score. The due date, it does absolutely nothing for your score. Your whole financial reputation is being decided on this completely separate date that is barely even mentioned in your reminder emails. Our source material actually offers a brilliant analogy for this whole disconnect. The credit scoring system is not a movie, it is a series of photographs. You see, most people just naturally assume the credit bureaus, Experian, TransUnion, Equifax, are watching some live real-time feed of their bank accounts. They think, hey, if I pay my cart down to zero on Tuesday, the bureau knows I'm debt-free on Wednesday. But guys, that is not how the plumbing works. The bureaus aren't watching a movie. They just get a single snapshot once a month. And here's the absolute kicker. The photographer takes that picture when your room is at its absolute messiest, literally days before you actually clean it up. And this builds into what we call the 25-day lag trap. Just look at the flow of a standard month. Day 1, your billing cycle starts. You buy groceries, get some gas, go out for dinner, your balance climbs. Then on day 30, your cycle ends. This is the statement closing date. Click. The bank takes the snapshot. Whatever number is on your bill at that exact precise second gets locked into your credit report for the entire month. But look at where the due date is. It's way out on day 55. You could literally have a $3,000 balance reported on day 30, pay it down to absolute zero on day 55, and the credit bureaus will still see you as someone carrying $3,000 in debt for that entire month. You paid in full, on time, zero interest, but the algorithm, it only saw the messy snapshot. Which brings us to the actual mechanics behind this. The hidden math. So why does this one lagging snapshot matter so much? Well, it's because of this massive 30% slice in the FICO score breakdown for amounts owed. We're talking about your credit utilization ratio. Nearly 1/3 of your entire financial reputation hinges completely on that single snapshot we just talked about. I mean, think about that. It's weighted heavier than the length of your credit history. It's heavier than new inquiries. You could have 15 years of flawless, perfect payment history, and one bad utilization snapshot can literally drag your score down 60 to 100 points in a single month. And it's important to know the way they calculate this penalty isn't some smooth curve. It's more like a series of steep cliffs. If you keep that snapshot under 10% of your total limit, you're sitting pretty in the excellent zone. Between 10 and 30%, you're still in good territory. But the second you cross that 30% line, boom, you trip a major risk flag. Cross 50% and the algorithm essentially views your profile as a crisis. You are punished in sudden drops, not gentle gradients. Which brings us back to this staggering number, -60. This was Ryan's second big mistake. A few months later, he booked an $1,800 wedding expense on a single credit card that only had a $2,000 limit. Now, overall, his total utilization across all his different cards was super low. But what most people totally miss is that the algorithm calculates utilization twice, once on your overall credit and again on each individual card.
Because that one specific card hit 90% utilization on the exact day of the snapshot, it cost him 60 points. He honestly thought he was a victim of identity theft, but really, he was just a victim of cold math on outdated data.
Now, this leads to a really common misconception. Let's talk about why zero is a trap. If high utilization is bad, you'd probably just assume zero is perfect, right? Like, just pay everything down to absolute zero. But we actually need to challenge that. Because in the eyes of the algorithm, a $0 balance makes you a ghost. So many people wear this zero balance badge with so much pride. They pay their cards off 3 days early, they check the app, see that sweet zero, and feel like they won the game. But they're actually leaving points on the table. You see, the scoring model exists to assess one thing: how you manage debt. If the snapshot always captures a zero, the algorithm has absolutely no data to evaluate. It literally can't tell if you're a responsible borrower or just someone who never uses credit at all.
This brings us to a really brilliant strategy used by people rocking 800+ FICO scores. It's called A0, or all zero except one. The data actually shows that top scores average between 4 and 7% utilization. They don't report zero. So here's how A0 works. If you have, let's say, 5 credit cards, you pay 4 of them down to absolute zero before the statement closes. But on that 5th card, you intentionally leave a tiny balance, typically just 1% of the limit, so maybe 10 to 30 bucks. This tells the algorithm, yes, I am actively using my credit, and yes, I am keeping it almost invisibly low. And the best part about this, as long as you pay that tiny $20 balance by the actual due date, you still pay absolutely zero interest. You thread the needle perfectly.
All right, so how do we actually do this? Let's break down the 5-step score hack. Now that we understand the hidden mechanics, here is the exact protocol to optimize your score. You're going to want to follow these 5 steps exactly. Step 1. Find your statement closing date. Banks bury this on purpose, by the way. You'll usually have to dig 2 or 3 taps deep into last month's PDF statement just to find it. Once you do, set a calendar reminder for 3 days before that date. Okay, step 2. On that reminder day, log in and check your current balance. Step 3. Manually pay that balance down to roughly 1% of your limit. And a quick tip here, do not rely on autopay for this, because autopay almost always triggers after the snapshot. Step 4, do nothing. Just let the statement close and report that beautifully engineered 1% balance straight to the bureau. And finally, step 5, pay that tiny remaining balance by the actual due date. This foolproof manual procedure totally decouples your spending from your credit report. You are literally taking control of the algorithm.
But before you rush off to do this, we need to cover some traps and objections.
We really need to establish some crucial guardrails here to prevent any accidental damage. First up, credit cycling. Some people think, hey, if I can pay early, I'll just max out my $1,000 card and pay it off 4 times a month so I can spend $4 grand. Do not do this. To the bank's risk department, this looks exactly like money laundering or what they call bust-out fraud. They will freeze or close your account so fast. If you need more room, just call the bank and request a credit limit increase. It's much safer. Second, closing old cards. Never, ever close an old card just to simplify your finances. It removes available credit from your total pool, which shrinks the denominator in your math and instantly spikes your utilization percentage. Instead, just put a tiny subscription on it like Spotify, set it to autopay, and leave it alone. Finally, FICO 10T. This is a newer scoring model that actually looks at 24 months of trended data, which might eventually catch on to these timing tricks. But here is the reality check. In today's market, mortgage lenders and card issuers overwhelmingly still use FICO 8. So for now, the snapshot strategy absolutely still rules. Which brings us to our final thought for today's explainer. The banking system, it runs on rules. Most of us only ever learn the rules about fees and interest, but the rules about reporting and timing, they are just as powerful. So the question is, will you remain a passive subject of the algorithm, or will you take control of your own snapshot? I highly encourage you to test this 5-step method on just one card this month, and then drop a comment below letting us know how many points your score jumped. The data is yours to shape. Go out there and make the math work for you.